Hello, welcome back to my channel. We are in my kitchen right now. If you watched my ice cream beauty box unboxing, you will have seen that I hurt my back, so I just didn't feel like I was up to walking downstairs again. So we're in my dining room. There's a little bit of Halloween decor on the wall, some photos. I tried to turn on as many lights as I could, so the lighting's going to be a little bit off, but we're going to be chatting about some books that I've read. I have a stack of upcoming books, and I figured I would talk about one of my favorite coffee brands. I got a couple of limited edition seasonal flavors, so I figured I would share those with you. If that sounds interesting, stick around. Make sure you get your own coffee, since we're going to be talking about coffee and books. And let's jump into the video. I figured I would throw the coffee in because I got these a couple of days ago. I've only tried one of the flavors, which is what's in here right now. But I thought, coffee and books go hand in hand, so I would mention them. My husband and I like Black Rifle. I do have a bag of Starbucks pumpkin spice that my mother-in-law actually got me last year. She got me 2 of the giant bags, so that one, the second one, has been living in my freezer. So I haven't actually had to buy pumpkin spice other than this kind of variation, because I had a bag left over. But we like Black Rifle and Starbucks. This is Bones coffee. If you've never, I should probably sit in the chair properly since my back's bothering me. I've liked Bones coffee for a long time. I like my favorites. My 2 favorite flavors out of everything that I tried are the white. It's like the white peppermint mocha, the peppermint bark, whatever they call it. So it's got a little bit of the white chocolate with the peppermint. I love that one, and I love the chocolate raspberry. Out of all of what tastes like, you could just put milk in it if you don't want it super sweet, and you're going to get that flavor. This is the Haunted Mansion bag. I should say that the limited edition ones, like what I have, are $2 more than their regular bags, so just keep that in mind when you're looking. I get the ground coffee. You can get whole bean, and they do sell K-cups in some of the flavors. But this is the Haunted Mansion. It's brownie from beyond. It's supposed to be flavored like caramel brownie. I will say my husband and I weren't crazy about this flavor right off the bat. I do have it in my cup. We use vanilla flavored creamer. And then in the afternoon, if I have a second cup, I use flavored syrups too, and I'll just use milk. So what I have in here is a little bit of caramel syrup with just some milk. And I do think this tastes better with a little bit of caramel. So if you are interested in this brand and you decide to pick it up, that's just my preference. I think the caramel syrup kind of helps, because I did it this morning too with the creamer, just with the overall flavor. But it's not terrible. Like I said, I mentioned my 2 very favorite flavors, and I've tried their regular pumpkin spice. I had a bag of that last year. I decided to get one of these. They have the Nightmare Before Christmas collection. They've got, I think, 4 or 5 different flavors in this, from this Nightmare Before Christmas. This is the Pumpkin King, so it's pumpkin, pecan, and praline. Like I said, I tried their pumpkin spice last year. It was fine. I don't think it was better or worse than Starbucks. Not overly pumpkin spicy. I have tried, I think I tried a gingerbread from them too. It was fine. My favorite is the peppermint bark and the chocolate raspberry. I can say that without a doubt. So I'm hoping that I like this one more than the regular pumpkin spice. Their coffee is stronger than Black Rifle to me. Black Rifle's pretty strong too, and severely more stronger than Starbucks. So just be aware, use less than what you would normally do if you decide to try this, because I have made myself jittery, because I normally will have 3 cups of coffee, and this, if I make it too strong, I almost can't do that. I have to treat it like cold brew and dilute it. But yeah, I'm excited to try this one. So hopefully it's good. So let's get into the books. I'm going to start off with books that I've read within the last 2 years. I'm just getting back into reading, so this is all there is. And there is one other book that's at my mom's house. I did read, what got me back into reading was I read I'm thinking about ending things. Netflix did a movie. It's really short. It's like 90 pages, and it's meant to be read in one sitting, and it's very psychological. I did read that, was able to read that in one sitting, and that kind of jump-started me back into reading. I loaned it to my mom, so I don't have the physical copy of it here, but it is worth reading. So the first book that I read after that was The Sleep Experiment. This is by Jeremy Bates. This is what it looks like, and it is I'll read a little bit of the back. In 1954, at the start of the Cold War, the Soviet military offered 4 political prisoners their freedom if they participated in an experiment requiring them to remain awake for 14 days while under the influence of a powerful stimulant. The prisoners ultimately reverted to murder, self-mutilation, and madness. Okay, that's real. That actually happened. That was an actual experiment. They were given, I think it's like methamphetamines almost, or actual methamphetamines. They did mutilate each other, and nobody survived the experiment. You can look it up, you can Google it, but that is an actual experiment. So this book takes off. It takes place in 2018. There's a psychology professor that thinks he's found a better stimulant gas that doesn't have side effects, and he's trying to see if he can go past the 14 days. And the twists and turns that happened with that, you get a little bit of the beginning, so when you first read the book, you know, like, the course of events, and then it goes back and takes you through. It's not a difficult read. It's got pretty big print. How many pages was this? I feel like this was I feel like most of these books are like larger print than what I'm used to. How many pages? $241, so it wasn't very long, and I guess this is part of a series, World's Scariest Legends. Excuse me, this is book 2. I didn't realize. The first book is The Mosquito Man. After a woman bangs at the door in the middle of the night and promptly dies from her injury, a couple's remote cabin getaway becomes a psychological nightmare as they are hunted by an unknown assailant. Let's see, and then there's The Man from Tard. Ever been to Tard before? No, in fact, you never heard of it. Well, neither had the rest of the world when in July of 2020, a European businessman shows up at Tokyo International Airport claiming to not only hail from the non-existent country, but produces a legitimate passport. What follows is a breakneck tale full of mystery, intrigue, and action. So there's other, like, you don't have to read them in any particular order, I don't think, but there's that. This is a little bit gory, so if you're not into gore, then maybe steer clear of that. But it is a good read. It was very interesting because, like I said, the initial sleep experiment that they talk about at the beginning was an actual experiment. The next book is a little bit silly, and I've had other books like this over the years. This is the Extraterrestrial Species Almanac, the ultimate guide to greys, reptilians, hybrids, and Nordics. Greg Campobasso. So this is what it looks like. I got this on Amazon. I watch a lot of Ancient Aliens. At least I did before the History Channel was removed from Hulu. I don't know how I'm going to be able to watch the new seasons, but I love Ancient Aliens. I love paranormal stuff, Bigfoot, extraterrestrials, the whole thing. So this book is from the perspective where it goes through, let's see, there's human extraterrestrial races, Zeta human, greys, and more, animal and insect races, notable hybrid races, reptilians, and others. These are supposedly, like, all the ones from, like, history, any cultures ever talked about, the aliens that have supposedly, allegedly visited the planet. And there are pictures, like, they tried to illustrate pictures. So it just goes through, like, any alien or extraterrestrial species that has ever been talked about. So that's interesting to you. Like I said, I got this on Amazon, and it's one of the better ones. Like, it's not written cheesy. And some of these that are like self-published, like, they're really thin. So this is very substantial and it's well written. So if you're interested in aliens and different alien species that are thought to exist, this is worth checking out. And I will try and remember and link these down below, at least where you can get them on Amazon if it's possible. This book I finished last week. So this is Life with the Afterlife. 13 Truths I Learned About Ghosts by Amy Bruni. She is the host of Kindred Spirits on Discovery, and I have started watching that. I think it's been on for 7 seasons. I don't know if it's been renewed for more. She was on Ghost Hunters for a couple of seasons, and then her and her ghost hunting partner left and started they started the Kindred Spirits, and then she came out with this book. So in the book, it does talk about some of the cases that she's worked on. So it's been kind of neat to have read the book and then actually watch the episodes. But it's just her perspective on ghosts, hauntings, what to do if there's hauntings from a realistic approach. So it's well written. And if you're a fan of the Haunted Objects podcast with Greg and Dana Newkirk, they are mentioned in here a few times. They're friends of hers, and they were featured on one of their she was featured on one of their podcast episodes. So yeah, it was a really good read. I highly recommend. I got this through Walmart, but it was from like a third-party bookseller like Thrift Books, but it wasn't Thrift Books. Walmart is trying to compete with Amazon, so you can get stuff from third-party sellers. So I did technically buy this used, but it was pretty much, it's like a brand new copy. And then I literally finished this book today. This is Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. I think I bought this last year. This is by Shay Earnshaw. It's kind of like one of those Disney villain series books, but that's a different author. But it's in the same vein. So this is like the sequel to Nightmare Before Christmas. It's after Sally marries Jack. They actually go into the other holiday towns, so those are described. She finds some ancient realm doorways. The Sandman is unleashed. I won't tell you any more about it, but I was able to read this. I read half of it the first night, so it's about 315 pages or so. I read about 110 maybe the first evening. I had some time, and then I read a chapter the next day, and then I finished it today. So I probably could have read this in 2 sittings had I read longer the second day, but it was really good. Like I said, I think I bought this like 2 years ago, never got around to reading it. I have another book coming, and I think it's by this author. I don't think it's the author that did the villain series. It's about the Headless Horseman. So I don't think it's the Ichabod Crane like retelling. I think it's another like Headless Horseman. So if it's not this author, again, it's in the same vein. So that's coming. So I'm going to read that first before I read the other ones. But I will show you what I'm hoping to get to after that. Okay, I'm putting those together because they're by the same author. I picked up a copy. I guess we'll do that next. I have a bookmark in this one. My husband bought me this, I think 2 Christmases ago, and I took it on the airplane. I only got about a chapter into it. It's one of those, it's a little bit smaller print. How long is this? It's about 360 pages maybe or so. But it's called Blind Sight. It's by Peter Watts. He had heard about this book. He watches Joe Rogan's podcast, and I think the author was on an episode. It's about, it's got aliens in it. It takes place, I think, that, there's planes and spaceships, and then there's also vampires. So I think that's why I got it, but it's a little more of an intense read, so it wasn't as fast for me to get into it the last time I tried to read it, which was like a year ago. I am gonna read it now that I've been reading more. Sometimes it's easier to go into books like this after I've been reading for a little bit because I'm retraining my brain. So we'll get to that. And then I got this book. so that I could get free shipping with this book. I like using thrift books. I will link them down below. You only have to spend $15 to get free shipping, which sometimes isn't hard to do, especially if you're buying newer books. So I wanted to read this again, like it's not a throwaway book. This is the Amityville Horror by Antis, the original novel, and I have read this before. I wanted to read this again, and they had this is obviously a very used copy, but I was able to get this, and this gave me the free shipping. So I'm excited to read this again. Like I said, I have read this before, but that was over a decade ago probably, so I was curious to read it again. And then the book that I got, I heard about this on TikTok. I've started following some book accounts, and this is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. He also wrote this other book that I'm going to talk about. I didn't realize it was the same author until I was looking at this book, and then I realized that he had written that other book. This is from the perspective, I think he writes a lot of books that take place in the 80s, because I have another book of his in my cart for later. But it's from the perspective that, like, Laurie Strode from Halloween and the lady that survived, like, Friday the 13th, like those type of scream queens, like that those were real, and those women are all in a support group, and then somebody comes along and is like picking them off. So it sounded really interesting. The 80s is my favorite decade, and that whole concept sounds interesting. I have another Final Girl book. It's written by a different author, but it's a similar premise where the lady survived like a movie-esque massacre, and then somebody's trying to kill her, which I never got around to reading that book. But this sounded interesting, so I'm excited to read it. I don't know if, what do they talk about? Movies like The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Scream. Let's see. Lynette Tarkington is a real-life Final Girl who survived a massacre more than a decade. She's been meeting with 5 other Final Girls and their therapists in a support group for those who endured the unthinkable. So I don't know if it's the actual characters from those books, because I don't know about copyright, but it's supposed to be like those movies actually happened type of a thing. So I'm excited to read that. And then he also wrote My Best Friend's Exorcism, which is a movie on Prime. I haven't watched the movie yet, but it takes place in the 80s, and I liked all the pop cultural references, so I ended up picking up the book, and I actually bought this first, and then, like I said, I realized it was the same author. But again, it takes place in the 80s, and it's about a girl and her friend, and I think they're messing around with like the Ouija board and that kind of thing, and her friend accidentally gets possessed by a demon. So again, I haven't watched the movie. So those are books on the list. Like I said, I want to read The Headless Horseman first, because I was trying to get through this book and The Headless Horseman before we get into October, because they're very Halloween-esque, and then I was going to read this book after that. Thank you guys so much. Let me know if you want me to do more book content. I'm trying to get back into reading more, so I'm hoping that doing these like check-ins periodically will help motivate me. So hopefully if I can get through at least a couple of these quickly, I can do another one. And then I do have more books than this to read. I have several that I've bought in the last like 2 years, and that my husband has bought me, so I could definitely pull out another batch. So yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I will try and link at least thrift books down below, and then a couple that we got on Amazon, because I'm pretty sure my husband bought this on Amazon, so I'll try and link. This was purchased on Amazon. I'll try and link what I can down below, but always check thrift books first. They tend to be the cheapest. So again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and hopefully I will see you in another video very soon. Bye, everybody.